Hello, I'm EVM, welcome back to the channel, and today I want to talk about these things. Home charge point. The grant that puts £350 towards the installation of one of these is changing at the end of March. And I think there's a real danger of a lot of people missing out on this or mistiming this, and it could end up costing them hundreds of pounds. Now this is something which I've decided to do a video on because there's very little out there in the media, on YouTube. It seems to have crept up on all of us and we've not realised there's very few companies out there that are actually telling people you need to get a move on if you want to take advantage of this grant. The only way I found out was by looking at Smart Home Chargers website, and I'm not saying this, I promise, hand on heart, I'm not saying this because they have sponsored the channel in the past and will be in the future. I'm saying this because it's the only place I found online that actually told me it's going to change and these are the details, and if you don't hurry now, if you're after one anyway, you're going to miss out, or at least it's going to cost you a lot more to get one. So effectively what's happening is at the end of March 2022, the OZEV grant, the Office for Zero Emission Vehicles, I think it is, they're changing it so if you're a homeowner, like I am, you will no longer be eligible for the grant. They're changing it so it's directed towards people who are renting and landlords and things like that effectively, which isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying that that's something that shouldn't happen, it should. It absolutely is a good idea. Let me come back to that in a few minutes though, because I want to tell you why it's so important that you need to get a move on with this. The grant is conditional upon one significant factor, which does put a bit of a ticking clock on it. This has to be installed by the end of March, not booked in by. You can't book it in March and then get it done in June. This has to be physically installed for you to be eligible for the grant. Right now, we're fast approaching the end of December, so we've effectively got 3 months. But there's only so many installers in the country, like Smart Home Charge, they're a nationwide installer. There's only so many slots that the whole of the UK will be able to supply a charger with. It's not just like buying a fridge where you order it online and it turns up. There's paperwork involved, there's eligibility criteria you need to fill, and there's various bits of information you need to collate. So with just a finite amount of install slots between now and the end of March, anyone that doesn't book it in soon enough is going to miss out, quite frankly. Traditionally, there's I would say 3 or 4 week lead time from basically the start to the end point of getting a charge point. And that could be delayed by many other reasons. Let me give you an example. A person up the road from me, he was getting the charge point done at the end of October and it got delayed by nearly 2 weeks because the information the dealership gave him on the car was incorrect. So these delays can sometimes be nothing to do with you, and it's because someone else has made a mistake. So what I'm saying is, if you're getting an EV in the next few months, if you're one of those that's probably getting an EV in the March number plate, when the new one comes out, there's usually a spike of new owners coming out then. You need to book it in as soon as possible because other people will be doing it before you. The last thing you want to do is ring up at the beginning or the end of March saying, "Hi, can I have a charge point installed next week please? My car's just about to arrive." You'll be too late because again, it's the installation date that's important, not when you ask for it. Too many times, and I speak to Smart Home Charge a lot about this because obviously I've worked with them for a few years on the channel. Too many times people ring up and expect the charge point to be done in the next few days or something. It doesn't work like that. Especially with the grant. There's paperwork, there's all sorts of procedures. You might need a site survey. You need to give it at least a month. And potentially, if you're unlucky or somebody else makes a mistake, as the guy up the road found out, you need to give it as much time as possible. If you know roughly when your car's turning up, speak to the installer, speak to Smart Home Charge. They are nationwide. I use them, so I'm happy to recommend them to you, as I've mentioned many times in the past. So yeah, that's basically the call to action that this video is hoping to prompt. I've spoken to a few people I know who are getting an EV very soon, and they were completely unaware of this. No dealership is mentioning this when they're selling you the car. So how many people will buy one in February or, well, it doesn't have to be new, it could be used EV. The grant is applicable to used electric vehicles, not just new ones. So you could be buying one at any time and then suddenly find out because the dealership hasn't told you any of this, that you end up spending a few £100 more just because of that little bit of information. I'm trying to make sure people don't miss out on something which, again, could make a difference of £350. Of course, I will put the link to the information from Smart Home Chargers blog on my description below, and please do have a look at that because I'm going to skim through this. If you want the details, click on the link in the description below. I'll put it as a pinned link as well, and within that are other links. So if you're a landlord, all the information is there and it tells you lots of stuff that, quite frankly, could save you a lot of hassle. What's this changing to then? Ultimately, the rental landlord scheme. It's something which I don't disapprove of. I think it's a very good idea, but it does have a few flaws. I've got the information right in front of me now, so let me just read it off this because there's a lot of info here. And I should point out that although this is almost certainly what's going to happen, there is always the chance that somebody in one of these government organisations or the government itself could do a little bit of a U-turn. They may have a meeting with cheese and biscuits that's not a party and change their minds. So if this is slightly different from what I tell you come March or April, then you have been warned. Okay, now owners of detached, semi-detached terraced houses and bungalows will no longer be eligible from March the 31st, 2022. The grant will instead be aimed at landlords of rental properties and those living in leasehold flats. The idea is to remove a key barrier to EV uptake, especially in the cities and places like that. Not a bad idea. Landlords will be able to make up to 200 applications for a maximum of 70 grand per year. Each property they apply for must have private parking, and there is no limit to how many chargers can be installed on a single property. Owners of apartment blocks will be able to make up to 30 applications for a maximum of £900,000 per year. Up to £850 will be granted for each parking space allocated to ChargePoint, and up to £500 will be awarded for parking spaces provided with the infrastructure to install a charge point in the future. At least 5 spaces per block must be dedicated charging bays with one or more accessible charge point. However, no specific plans have been announced yet to install chargers en masse at local authority properties, and that could limit EV uptake in areas with lots of social housing. So that's what they're changing it to. Let me just put this down. Effectively, I don't mind this. I quite like the idea that they're going after apartment blocks and landlords because that's a significant black hole into what needs to happen for mass EV adoption to take place. And that's the whole point of this. Every charge point that goes in somebody's house or parking bay or spot or apartment block or whatever is one less charger that is needed on the public infrastructure. It makes it easier for those that 100% rely on the public infrastructure if more people have one wherever they live, whether it's rented in a flat or in a parking garage or whatever. So this is absolutely key over the next decade or so to get this mass EV adoption. That's why I'm quite in favour of this. However, I'm not really in favour of the fact that they're stopping it for homeowners, because although logically, I guess you will be in a better financial position, but the reason why I think it needs to stay for homeowners is because we're not at that point yet where people don't need help. People, even with houses, struggle, especially financially, with what's going on at the moment. And we need more infrastructure. That's what we need to pile them. We need to. So I don't want to stop the landlord thing. That needs to happen. We need both, quite frankly, because, like I said, this is part of the infrastructure. And the government are trying to increase the infrastructure by removing the grants for a lot of people out there. I don't believe that there's only a little bit of money in the UK where they have to take it away from one to give to the other. Given how important this infrastructure is, both need to happen. For me, I don't want to get too political on this, but ultimately, I think this is going to hurt people. It's going to hurt and slow EV adoption. I think, because it's so cold in this garage, my camera just had a mental breakdown. Right, This is something that will impact people because, again, it's for used EVs as well as new ones. So it doesn't necessarily mean that because someone's buying an electric vehicle, they've got lots of money. If somebody is buying an £8,000 used electric vehicle, of which the current grant is applicable for, that's like adding 10% onto the price of the car. Whether you rent or you own your own home, that's still a massive amount which would then make you think twice about getting that electric vehicle. Even if you're talking about a new one, most people get finance. You might put a £2,000, a £3,000, a £4,000 deposit down. All of a sudden, if you're adding £800–900 onto that, you're going to be looking at a significant percentage increase on the money you need to be able to get that electric vehicle again. So it is going to hurt EV adoption, no doubt about it. It is going to make people think twice and think, nah, this isn't worth it. I'm paying more for the car itself, traditionally anyway, at the moment, for now. And now I'm having to pay a lot more for that. I'll stick with my petrol or diesel car or whatever. So if the government are wanting to drive EV adoption, it's going to help in one ways, but then take away in others. There are manufacturers now, I believe Nissan might be doing this with the Leaf, where you can effectively spec the charge point with the car. So you go, right, I'll have metallic paint, heated seats, thank you very much. Charge point, yep, I'll do that. So as part of the finance agreement on the car, the charge point will be included. That's not a bad way of doing it. Again, I don't mind that happening. I would maybe take advantage of that myself. However, the one thing that I don't like about that is the fact that you would have to use the charger and the installer that manufacturer are using. This has happened to my brother 18 months ago, 2 years ago, something like that. He got an EV with a charger. It was free, so no brainer. But that charger has been so horrifically unreliable, mainly the app-based smart features of it, that he wished he'd have just paid a few £100 and got a proper charger. Nissan or Renault or Kia or whoever will be giving free charge points or at least bundling them with their car will choose the cheapest bidder. Someone that comes along and goes, yes, I can provide you at this much per unit. So effectively, yes, you might be getting an easy to obtain charger. It might even be a bit cheaper, but it's one that is effectively the lowest bidding one, the one that's the cheapest one, not necessarily the best for you. It just happens to come with the car. That's why I don't like these bundled chargers. Not all of them, but a lot of them, because ultimately they're usually the cheapest they can buy and get away with. So sometimes I would think twice. If you're getting one with your car, do your research and go, you know what, I'm going to pay a few £100 extra and get that. And not just that, you have to use the installer that the manufacturer uses, not recommends. You have to use their installer because it's coming with their car. Not all installers that are on a massive contract and getting pennies per install will do the same level of detailed job, to put it politely, that somebody like Smart Home Charge will do when they're installing one, because you're their customer as opposed to the manufacturer's customer. But ultimately, if you are a homeowner and you're getting an EV within the next few months, get a move on. Otherwise, if you ring up, I suspect any time, maybe end of February onwards, maybe middle of February, depends how busy they are, you're going to miss out because EVs are selling tons. I mean, they're flying off the shelf to the point where there's some ridiculous lead times, not just because of chip shortages, but because the tipping point has been reached. The problems now that people had with EVs are not related to the car. It's all about the infrastructure, and this is part of the infrastructure. So EVs are flying out of the shop, as it were. There's going to be a lot of people wanting charge points. There's only so many charge installers out there, like Smart Home Charge. So get your name down now if you know your car's on its way or you've got a delivery date. Because remember, it is installation date, not booking date. I can't say that enough. Right, well, does this change anything for you? Are you a landlord? Are you a landlord with maybe an apartment block or lots of flats or lots of houses? Does this help you? Please do give me your opinion as a landlord. Is this going to make you do something for your tenants? I don't know if you're going to build them. I don't know how you're going to benefit from it as a landlord, but ultimately it needs to happen. If you are a homeowner and you're thinking about getting an EV. For example, let me give you a very quick example of Let me give you a quick example of somebody that I know who is wanting to buy an ID3. The spec he wanted, he was given the date of August. August for delivery, mainly due to the chip shortages and various other factors. But now he's going to have to budget in another few hundred quid potentially for a charge point because of that. Does it change the car you're getting? Are you suddenly going, I'm not bothered what car I get, but I would like to get that few hundred quid, so I'm going to change the car that I was going to get for something else. Give me all your comments, give me all your thoughts, and please do tell everybody about this, because it has been kept, not quiet, it's just no one seems to be getting it out there that this thing's ending and it's going to really hurt some people's pockets. Right, thank you for watching. As always, please do click the subscribe button and the like button. I know every single channel you watch says that at the end of the video. It's for a good reason, because that's what we get based on. That's the markers that people look at. How many subscribers have you got? It's very important, which is why everybody says it at the end of every damn video. It's annoying, but it is key. So once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.